and we should be live. So I was going to come and just have just my camera shown, but it doesn't matter. So, hey, everybody, we're going to go ahead and start this off. And to your left here, me, Greg Summers. I'm sure because you came to the channel, you understand who I am. And in the middle, we've got Brett Kingman, the star of the show. And and over on the right, we've got Chris from the Guitar Pit. And thank you for joining me again. And we're going to, I've got a little bit of a few questions here, a little agenda. We're going to try to do that, jump over the chat every now and then. So don't think we're trying to ignore you or anything. We're just trying to keep some sort of flow. And obviously, if things start getting wonky on the stream, we've had some network issues in the U.S. here in the last couple of days. So who knows what's happening. Something. Hey, Jason.
Oh, cyber attacks.
Yeah. I don't get too technical. It's the distributed denial of service, right? Anyway, so first off, I kind of want to just obviously, if anybody doesn't know who Brett is, and I'm going to actually get off my iPad here so I can see my notes. And cool. I have cover chat rules. There's no rules. Just be nice, obviously. And so I want to kind of start out, Brett, and maybe have you kind of share a little bit of background and kind of like, if you don't know, Brett is in Australia, so he's having his coffee right now, and we're kind of getting ready to go to bed around here. So, he's got it. I can't even say what you said. It's black, and you like it very thick.
Long black, aka espresso, Italian style, Turkish style almost, very thick and black and strong.
I mean, that sounds good. I
am. It's 11 a.m. and it's 11 a.m. here in Melbourne, the day after tomorrow. No,
I know.
It's 11 a.m. here tomorrow.
Yeah. From the future.
I come to you from the future, from the Mornington Peninsula on Victoria's southern coast in Australia. It's Friday morning. I'm having a coffee, talking to you excellent blokes. And I'm a 50-year-old something musician, 50-something-year-old musician who has indulged in the YouTube ways since 2008, which is about when it was launched, or not much before. And luckily I got in fairly early and was adopted by the great and sadly departed Aaron Miller from the Pro Guitar Shop in 2010, who launched me onto the world stage, and I've been enjoying it ever since. I've made a couple of thousand videos in my own time, with my own style, when I feel like it, how I feel like it, and it's been fun and rewarding at the same time, because I've got to meet a whole bunch of fabulous people, and my room is full of gear, which is kind of obscene. I mean, really, I'm becoming entombed by it. And
it's a good problem to have.
That's a good problem to have, yeah. And so guitars have become currency while remaining the love of my life, and I've built a little business around it, and it's been fun.
I think I saw you. I was just doing some background on it because, I mean, of course, I just met you or saw you from Facebook and YouTube, and I found an article from Reverb and was reading that. I don't know when that was, but I forgot the date on it. But you said some cool things in there, and of course, it got me thinking about my own situation and my work. And I've been doing my stuff for 20 years or so, so you can get burnt out. Chris knows all about that stuff, I'm sure. And you said something about life was too short to not do something that you don't love, kind of thing. I mean, that's kind of, people say that all the time, but for some reason it's like resonating with me right now. And but obviously you can't have something overnight, and it's you've been here from 2008, and I can only kick myself because I had an aviation podcast that I started putting some stuff on YouTube just around that time, but I just couldn't think ahead about, hey, get this as a channel. So, so I kicked myself then, but, I think everything is, there's a reason for everything. So,
sure.
Yeah.
You look happy
started
now.
in 2008.
Yeah. But, hey, I think I was telling Chris, I do have like $70 in my AdSense account. I can't get it.
That's
but
good.
I can't get it because they took off monetization. Under 1,000 subscribers.
Oh yeah, because
right?
it was super old, right?
Yeah. So I had
You'll never
monetized
get
some of those videos were starting to get monetized, and I reached that point, and then all of a sudden I went back in with this channel, and I was like, hey, what? Oh, I can't monetize. All right, so that was kind of a bummer. So.
Why can't I don't understand that. Sorry, audience, but why can't you monetize this channel?
Under 1,000 subscribers, so it's so many watch hours. I forgot, was it 4,000? Some thousands of watch hours.
I think you need X amount of hours watched, X subscribers. There's a bunch of different things, which is fairly recent. It's probably the last year, maybe two years at the most.
Okay.
And those goalposts kind of move, which I think they take pleasure in. They go, oh, by the way, now you can't
a subscriber drive.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
that's
for those of you who are watching right now, subscribe to Greg's channel, or I'm going to leave in 2 minutes.
It's a threat.
I know. The funny part is when I started back, I started around the time that Chris did. Chris has a great platform that definitely helps people. Obviously, I think I've told Chris, I say how much I love his style of sharing his guitars and how he does it. So that's what attracted me when I was looking for my Sir. I've said that before. And then people, you'll get hits. I mean, so my channel, I started doing some Axe effects. That probably boosted things, and I did that. I had the Helix before, but I just still wasn't thinking about the channel. But I remember I had this account was associated kind of with my aviation stuff. Kind of like people would come in here personally. So I had about 80 subscribers, so when I converted it to this guitar, and so I can imagine people are like, what is this guitar crap? So I've slowly seen just goes up, goes down, goes up. But I think that's fairly normal for a lot of channels, I guess. But when you're only around 500 or 600 subscribers, you notice that one subscriber leaving. You're like, don't leave.
That's okay. I mix mine up with gardening sometimes, So
that's really. I actually enjoy watching some of that stuff, but maybe one day I will kill. I will kill everything. So
I always like that stuff because I think a lot of times you follow somebody because maybe you just kind of like their style, anyways. Yeah. So if there's somebody I really look forward to watching, and they go, hey, you know what? Today we're talking about this other weird thing.
Yeah,
I'm game. Maybe they have something interesting. Maybe I'll get interested in that through that. And that's happened to me a couple times where some streamer or something is like, yeah, today I want to talk about this other thing. And I go, oh, okay. And they start reading about it online, and you're like, all right, I'm feeling it. Well, it's kind of cool.
Well, I think that I've told, me and the guy at work, we're always analyzing, what's the key to, you watch all the keys to YouTube success or any success on any, and it's hard, right? But
consistency, I think.
But bottom line, people have to. We say this all the time. People have to buy into you. People have to like you, and that is if your content's good, that's obviously good. But I subscribe because I look at the guy and I go, I like that guy, But some people just watch videos and they never hit a subscribe button. They just go and they just watch it, kind of thing. But people like us who are into, I talk to my friends, they're like, yeah, I just go on YouTube when I want to search how to fix my washing machine, So and we like live in this, it's like what is the first thing I do when I get in the morning? I see who's my subscriptions and comes up. But I did want to you kind of talked about. I wanted to kind of find out what your background was, and I think you kind of touched on the start of YouTube. I read how you kind of started it with it where I guess you did a couple of videos with your daughter, and that was kind of what helped you out, I guess, and obviously Aaron. Is it Aaron?
Sure.
What was his name? Andy or Aaron? Aaron. Okay.
Yeah. Well, both of them really. Andy is still a great friend, and Aaron unfortunately left us 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
But yeah, Sadie, my daughter, was 5 or 6 at the time, and we're very close. And she just liked to hang out with her dad and make sounds with fuzz boxes and stuff, which I'd already been a touring musician on a professional level in Australia and around the world, really, for gosh, nearly 20 years. And I'd never really indulged in boutique gear. I'd only ever used things on a purely utilitarian level. If I needed a Strat, I bought a Strat. If I needed a Marshall, I got a Marshall. If I needed a fuzz box, I bought usually a Boss pedal. But a friend introduced me to MI Audio stuff, the Crunch Box, which has gone on to be copied by some notable names. And that was the launch of my boutique taste test, I guess. And so I thought, well, I'm bored. I'm not on the road. I'll start to make little videos. So I just used whatever MacBook Pro I think I had at the time and just set the screen up and used the built-in microphone and put up a demo and then another demo. And then I was working for a distribution company, so I bought in some Catlin bred pedals, which were very obscure, and Subdecay pedals, both from the same area of Portland. I think Portland, yeah. And Nick's left us too, unfortunately, from Catlin bred. And then it just, for some reason, the demos appealed, probably because they were very casual and off the cuff. And Sadie was really cute at that point. A father would say that, but other people agreed as well. And so wives and girlfriends started to watch it, which opened the whole demographic right up.
Yeah.
You cracked the code. That's the secret demographic none of us can get.
I think I created a code.
Yeah.
And so that was it. And of course, Sadie grew up and didn't want to appear in videos anymore. She's nearly 18 now and doing exceedingly well at school, I'm very proud to say, but will not appear in any more Fuzzbox videos.
She doesn't want to do her own YouTube stuff? Does she have an interest in doing that?
Not at the moment.
Yeah.
The late teen sort of stage, as you may remember, is pretty self-aware. And so they're very careful about how they expose themselves. And appearing with your 50-year-old dad demoing wah-wah pedals is probably not on the agenda, So, but she's happy, and the channel has continued to grow very, very slowly, but happily, and so it's all good. I've got a small but loyal following. I think 50,000 subscribers or something at the moment, and they all chip in regularly, and it's great. So I'm happy, under no pressure except for the pressure that I put myself under.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I've had a very, very brief time with like, oh, hey, maybe I can cover the cost of my flying lessons, so let me get a sponsor. And it usually ended up to be like software. They were coming out with some really neat iPad software at the time, so I reached out to the developers there, and now it's a very big aviation suite. But it was like, oh, okay, I can give you a piece of, I can give you the desktop version or whatever. But we were talking about the other night was, now you got to do this review. Now you got to pay them back. And, when it was like, oh crap, I got to deliver now. Now it feels like a job.
It's turned into work.
Turns into work, right? So you might think it's really cool to get all this free gear, but you better have some time and.
Well, it's not free at all.
It's not free.
That's
well, I mean,
it's not
free to play. I mean, sorry, yes.
This GE300 from Moore came in a couple of weeks ago. It's not free because I've already spent 3 days researching the thing and working out how I could, condense a worthy demo into 10 minutes, because the attention span on YouTube is like 14 seconds. So it's got to be good. So people don't understand that what you do is actually work.
It's a lot. For sure, it's a lot of work.
It's a developed skill.
Yeah.
And not to mention, all of the other skills we're talking about: mixing and engineering, and Final Cut Pro or whatever you guys use, and Logic and Pro Tools, and then there's microphones and cameras to be bought. And if you're a one-man show, as I'm sure we all are, it's a very high skill set, and try to convey that to people sometimes is difficult. They just think, oh, you YouTube star and you've got it made, but it's friggin' hard work.
Yeah. Just hit record on your iPhone. What are you doing?
Yeah.
I discovered, which I would say I'm new to modeling, but new to modeling live, because the Helix was my first foray into like trusting that maybe I can go live, but I never used anything else, right? No pedals, nothing. So I went from a traditional rig over, Ground Control Pro, Strymon, all that stuff, and then didn't sell my rig, but sold the Strymon and stuff. And then but now I'm kind of like coming back to my love for, the pedals I sold. And I'm like, I grabbed this pedal and I'm like, I'm going to hook this to the Axe-Fx and I'm going to just do an edge of breakup kind of thing. And so I bought this, what was it? Crayon, right? What was it? The E8? I forgot the name of the company now. EHX? What's the... Right.
Electro-harmonics.
Yes. So I bought this pedal and I was like, I really miss the knobs. And so I was like, I'm going to do a demo. But I'm like, okay, I can't get the camera right. I can't get it over there. I'm like, the cords are in the way. Now my hand's in the way. I'm like, this is ridiculous, So I've yet to put anything out. So it's just that the work that of course, I have a great deal of respect for content creators, and just it's hard work, and so it's good. It's great that you can. So one of my questions was, is YouTube a full-time job? It sounds like you're maybe just on a break from touring right now, but how do you maintain that? If you go on tour, how do you maintain this? You're putting out so much content lately. How do you maintain that?
That's true. And this year, I made a commitment to Elizabeth, my wife, garden girl, and Sadie to be at home more, because for the last 6 or 7 years I've been away pretty much every weekend. And for 3 or 4 days at a time I'm in a different state or sometimes in a different country. So this year I said I won't tour, I'll just stay at home and do the YouTube thing, and it's been amazing. My finances have dropped a little bit, but the gain has been that we've all been together and I'm working from home and I don't have to go to the damn airport 2 or 3 times a week. It's been incredible. However, touring begins again at the end of this year for a couple of extensive tours, and I'll be glad to get it back out there, to be honest, because I was kind of been on the stage since I was 12 years old, which was last century, and I'm looking forward to it again.
Do you find that when you made that commitment and you went over to do more videos, and this is my selfish question because I'm always like frequency, and did you find your audience grew more, or are you basically the same kind of growth rate on YouTube?
I think the trend did go up slightly. And audiences tend to grow if you keep feeding them content and you become a predictable content generator, for want of a better word. If you're doing it sporadically and don't put out something for 2 months, well, then that vacuum is filled very, very quickly, in hours, probably, by another creator, which is understandable. That's cool, because people want to watch something, and if you're not there, they'll watch something else. But if you're being consistent and if you've got some sort of I haven't done this yet, but a series of stuff. I do it a lot with Fractal Audio stuff. As you know, I write presets for Fractal and upload them. When I decide that I don't want to do this fuzz box, I'm sick of doing these, or a reverb pedal or something, then I'll sit here and I'll write a suite of sounds for a Dumble amp or Marshalls or Fenders or whatever it may be, and upload them and just give it away, because I like to give people, something for nothing, and Fractal have been very kind to me, so that's what I do.
That's awesome.
Until I decide, oh shit, I need some money, with the mortgage is due next week, I better make some pedal videos. So it's a very anarchistic kind of irresponsible way to work, but so far so good, no complaints.
Thanks to my dad.
Pedal videos are particularly hard because I can't review pedals, because you have to actually be able to play guitar in some kind of interesting manner, because the pedal itself won't carry the video. So I just skip pedals completely, because I'm like, nobody's going to watch me pluck one note. So I really appreciate that your pedal videos sound good. Your videos, you're probably my favorite pedal demo guy and tone guy on YouTube. I've been watching your videos for years, so it's super cool
very
to
flattered.
get the chat to you. And no, it's one of those things where I went, how hard is that? And then you try to make one of those videos and you go, oh my god, okay,
yeah, it's hard,
really hard. Yeah, it's hard to make them.
It's not about me. That's the thing. That's the thing that irritates me sometimes. It's not about the presenter or the creator, or whatever you call us. It's about the product. You're there to do justice and to a certain extent sell or demonstrate the product for the guy who's in the Arizona desert who can't get to a music store. and he thinks, oh, well, what's the astronaut going to sound like if I get it at home and I take the punt and buy it online? I'll watch one of Berg's videos because I can be sure that that's what I'll get. And so far, so good. And that's what I really try to do, is just be a conduit for the product, not me.
Yeah, we're online shopping advertisements for free.
So
how do we get into this? Yeah.
I'll jump over to the chat real quick. And sorry, because my interface is very small in this program. But I just saw Ben pop a question at Ben Coombs, and I featured it on my little software. So it's on the feed now on the actual as an overlay. So he asked a question for Brett. What do you find works best for how many videos you release in a month? So what do you find works best for how many videos you release in a month?
In terms of quantity, I don't actually put a quantitative value on my output. As long as I put out 1 or 2 a week, I think I'm pretty good. If it gets to a fortnight and I haven't done anything, then I know that people will be moving on. So yeah, 1 or 2 a week is usually enough, but 4 a week if I can not burn out and get that done. But that's quite difficult.
Yeah,
that's 4 a week is pretty brutal, considering the editing, all the other things that go into dealing with a video. It's not just clicking record and then you're done. Yeah, that's a lot.
Well, and I'm
always really impressed when I see people
and I wish if I had. I don't have a interesting enough life to vlog during the day. I was thought, okay, hey, follow me. But I just don't. I'm like, follow me to this meeting. We're going to talk about IT stuff, So, but we're going to talk about how I just got chewed out for everything going down. How about that? That'll be entertaining. So, no, thankfully I don't get chewed out too much. So, okay. So, what is the coolest thing that has come from your success so far? Like, maybe this is my only funny story about the podcast, something like this. I was walking in Disney World and some guy came up to me and said, "Are you Greg Summers from whatever my podcast was?" And he was from Maine. And I was like, "Oh, that's really interesting." So your coolest thing, obviously, does people in Australia recognize you? Obviously, but you're a touring guy. Okay.
And I get pulled up on the street a little bit. I was in Saigon not long ago in the passport queue leaving Saigon. My family and I had just been to Vietnam for a holiday. It was beautiful. And a German guy yelled at me from 6 people back, "You're Brett Kingman. You're the guy from YouTube. I love your shit." And awesome. And I want an autograph. And everybody turned around and I what?
What's going on?
And I blushed very easily. So I would have gone, this color. Yeah. And thankfully Elizabeth and Sadie were a couple of people behind me too, because I had to use the bathroom or something, and so that was odd. A German guy pulling me out of a queue in a passport queue in Saigon was that was odd. Yeah. So and so YouTube has its merits and surprises.
Yeah. No, that's cool.
But I think the coolest thing is being literally inundated with all of this amazing gear that comes in. I kid you not, there would be a courier or 2 arriving at my doorstep or at my front gate every single day.
Yeah,
there is so much stuff here; it's just obscene.
For a
guitar player.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I could build a house out of all this crap.
Well, that's like one time I asked somebody. I said, "This is yeah." I said, "You know what? I just like to track things, so." There's got to be some sort of service that I can just get something every day. And they go, there is. I forgot what it was called. It was some service you can get, and they'll just send you knickknacks every day. So you have a delivery every day. Yeah. So, because of course, being in IT, I order so much equipment all the time. So the opening of like MacBook Pros and all the stuff and configuring all that stuff, it's still cool, but it's not as cool as if I didn't do it every day. But getting a delivery, I'm like, ooh, what do we have in FedEx today? But that sounds cool. Gear deliveries are even better. Sweetwater boxes, that's my favorite at work.
Sometimes, though, if you're overwhelmed with things, and I've got technical products to demonstrate, like this Moore GE300, for instance, which has not got one knob like a Fuzzbox has. It's got 400. and a courier arrives, you think, oh no, it's a bit like, be
You're like,
careful
oh
what you
crap,
wish
that's
for.
here, right?
It's homework in the mail. Yeah.
It becomes
is the
a
Moore
burden.
thing kind of like is it like a Helix or a very complicated like modeler sort of thing?
Yeah, well, Moore is what part of, I guess, the new breed, and Hot Tones Ampero is another good one.
So careful your mic
Moore,
there, Brett.
the new Boss. Sorry.
So be careful your mic there. It's
sorry.
There you go.
Sorry.
No.
The Boss GT 1000 is another good one, and they're all in the kind of low to mid price point. Yeah.
Isn't there a Moore, like a smaller one that I've seen like maybe 6 or 7 months ago, or maybe even a year ago that they put out I thought there was some sort of other small little Moore product.
There's one that it doesn't have a screen on it like Brett's. It's like a more simple one.
Yeah.
But the price seemed really good on it for what it did. It was impressive.
The 200 I think you're probably thinking of.
Okay. Yeah.
And there was a 100 before that. So there's, and they're pretty inexpensive. I'm not sure how they're priced over there, but here they're quite, I'd have to say, affordable.
Well, you can
spend as much as you want. I mean, the ultimate gizmo for me in that world is the Axis FX3. It just can't be beat. There's no competition for it that I've tried anyway, and it's amazing. But if you only want to pull up, a blackface Fender sound and a pretty basic pedal board rig with a chorus pedal and a delay and an overdrive on it, these things are more than capable.
Yeah, I think that I want to get to, because obviously I know, Chris, you probably have some questions too, but I want to talk about your Boss video you just did, because I just watched that. That was cool. And then but I wanted
that was a commission by Boss.
Yeah, I wanted to be fancy and show it to the stream, and I can, but you guys can't see it on here, so I'll just.
I'm glad because I look at that 900 in it.
No, it was good. Well, at least you got the professional, got the lighting, everything looks good, and so you were messing with the next tone stuff, I guess, right? So that was cool.
Yeah, Boss and I have had a relationship. Well, I've used Boss products since the early 70s when the B-Bar was released. That was my first pedal. I was 9 years old, I think. I had the Roland B-Bar. So I've used their stuff ever since. That's how long I've been playing guitar. Whoa. Anyway, Yoshi, who runs Roland and Boss in Japan, wanted me to do this for him and help him out, and I was only too happy and very flattered, I have to say. So they flew me to Sydney. There was a cinematographer there, an audio crew, lights, camera, action, and they put it together. And I read from a script, but and just tried to be as much as I could me.
I thought you were in. You're not in. So I thought you were in Sydney for some reason. Maybe I'm thinking you're on the coast. You're on the East Coast, right?
Yeah, I'm on the East Coast. I'm in Melbourne, which is south of Sydney by 800 or 900 miles.
Yeah, I told you I was bad at geography, so terrible. I looked and I was like, oh my god, okay, Australia's really
But you're
big.
In Melbourne too, right?
I am in Melbourne. Yes, I am in Melbourne, Florida. So
Florida, yeah.
Yeah.
I've been to Florida
for
a while.
Where have you been in Florida?
Oh, my last memory of Florida was Tampa. I think I was there with I did a tour with Robert Palmer.
Oh wow, awesome.
In the very late 80s on the Addicted to Love tour. He liked cognac at that.
Oh.
And so we toured across the States
Awesome.
with Robert Palmer's band, and that was pretty crazy. Yeah,
That's
but
cool.
I've been back to the US many times to go to NAMM and stuff like that, but not down to Florida.
I have not made it out there. Let's see. You've talked about your tour experiences. I mean, you have any kind of long-term goals as it relates to your growth of your channel? Anything else relevant like that? Is it just business as usual?
The channel is in a place where I'm happy with it. I don't want to compromise what I do to come across as sycophantic to any product or brand or anything like that, unless I like it, like I do as I do with the Fractal Audio stuff and Ernie Ball guitars and other brands that I have a mutual arrangement with. Yeah. I'm not contracted to anybody in terms of a written contract. The YouTube channel is, content-wise, is what I decide to create and when, pretty much, apart from unless I agree to a deadline, which is always digging your own hole, really, isn't it? So I'm happy the way that the YouTube channel. I've got a loyal following. It's respected, I think, in large part.
That's good. Yeah.
You guys like it.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah. I told Chris a couple episodes ago. I said I put out my stuff, and then when I put out my first video, I forgot about the trolls, and I was like, oh my god, they're all gonna laugh at me. Oh, I'm gonna have to deal with that. And so it's been one of those. Most people that do it for a long time are like, just ignore that. And then, it's gotten easier. But then again, for the most part, I don't get once you get bigger, I know you get the people that go in there and start stuff in there. But I'm a pretty one of those guys that cares too much about what people think. So sometimes I'll get a comment and I'm like, come on, I put a lot of work in this or whatever, so I'm sure it happens to everybody. Chris, he's got a good, outlook on things and like, it doesn't matter, so,
Hey.
yeah, right.
Internet's a tough place. You just brush it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you have to end up doing. I think trolls can be a bit of a shock to a personality, anybody's, when they're first encountered.
Yeah.
After you've tried to create something that you've put a lot of effort into, and somebody shoots it down with a keyboard in a matter of seconds.
Yeah.
But after you get over that shock, I've regarded them as sport for a while and enjoyed playing with them,
debating back and forth. Yeah, I think that's the thing. Like, I've always wanted.
Now just block them.
Yeah, or that, But I like your attitude of on your own terms, and where it's like, hey, this is right now. This is what you're doing, and you say this is what I want to stick with. I do what I want, and you're not like just pigeonholed to some sort of thing that you need to do. And I love, like, there's not too many, honestly, like Axe Effect, like presets. I always find stuff that I'll download and I just end up scrapping it and just creating my own, something very basic. But the ones I'm not just kissing up, but I do like your presets are very usable, and how this is how cool Brett is. I woke up on a Sunday morning and I had been tagged by this guy, Brett Kingman, on my phone. I was like, I just rolled out of bed and I looked and I went, that doesn't seem right. I'm like, oh my gosh. I ran to my son and I was like, dude, this guy just tagged me in there. And I was like, let me see what it's about. And then, you downloaded one of my presets and I was like, wow, okay. That's really,
and it was great.
Yeah. I was like, this is really cool. This guy that, didn't have to do that, but I believe in, I don't care where I'm at. I believe in helping. I love to just, if I can help somebody out, then just let me throw it at them. And Chad Boston's on here too.
Yeah,
he's the
well,
same way.
I like
He's
to
great.
too.
Yeah.
Just
it's very generous.
bloke from Australia. I don't hold myself any higher than anybody else. I just do this because I like to do it.
Yeah.
And if I can make money out of it, all of my energies at the moment, to go back to your previous question, are really being focused on my wife's gardening channel, which we've only just begun, but she's doing moderately well, and will do a lot better, I think, because she's a good looker and presents very much better than I do, and will probably be picked up by a network, and then all the heat is going to be taken off me.
Yeah.
So what's the
editing crew in and you're done?
So what's the? Obviously it's about gardening, but is there a theme? Is it just about, hey, this is how? Or is it her stuff, or what's kind of the channel? Some people, maybe there's people on here like gardening.
Its primary platform at the moment is Facebook, because she was too late to get into the YouTube thing. It's just too overrun with gardening channels, so we don't concentrate on YouTube. We should concentrate on Facebook.
Like guitar channels.
It's called Garden Girl, and if anybody wants to look for it, Elizabeth Garden Girl, I think it is. Maybe we can find it and put a tag up, or I'll put it in after this. But it's domestic gardening and decoration. She's an extraordinarily talented gardener. She's out there now, and refused to appear today to say hello, unfortunately. But so it just teaches people on how to place, how to grow, what to do if there are problems with certain plants and seasonal stuff, and anything to do with domestic gardening, really.
Well, I'm sure that's a good stress reliever for her too. I'm sure.
It's good, and it helps us be together more, because I'm the cameraman and director and the editor. So it brings us together and gives us something to do, a project, that's on top of our already happy marriage, I'm glad to say. So it's great.
Oh, that's good, especially if you can take that pressure. I like to help. like we have people at work, they'll mention something that they're passionate about, and I'm like, let me help you with let me shoot some video for you. Let me get you, some are interested, some are, we're like, that's too much work. But I always try to encourage people to, if there's something you want to do and you don't want to sit at a desk for, the rest of your life. Like I don't want to sit at a desk for the rest of my life. Unless I'm playing guitar, that's fine. But,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I did have one thing where it's like advice for anyone considering YouTube as a platform and getting into gear reviews. But, I don't know if that's a good question, but
the advice is they should be doing gear reviews on Facebook.
right.
Untapped market.
Yeah, I know, because it's everywhere, right? Yeah.
I think you've just got to have an angle of some description, even if it's your personality that is part of the attraction, and just be you, and try and make the quality as engaging as possible, and always look at it from an objective point of view. That is, imagine if you were watching you.
Yeah.
And if you get bored watching you, then sure as hell other people are going to too.
I'm bored watching me.
Edit the suit.
I watch everything. I think I've told Chris and a lot of my friends, I'm like, I get this idea, and usually like the wife's like, can you take a nap with me? I'll start to lay down, and then my head starts, going crazy, and I'm like, okay, I gotta go shoot something. And then I go in there and I do it, and I go, this is terrible. And but it just because I'm like, I can't even watch myself, but that's gotten easier. But as far as the idea sounds great. And then, especially when I release it and I watch it, I go, I got like 25 views, if it wasn't for like the Facebook group of the Axe Effects, I mean, finding my stuff organically would be not there right now. But some things, I'll put something out. Like I don't want to do Axe Effects. I want to do something I want to do right now. But they just don't. Then I can't share it anywhere. So I go, well, where can I share this? Because I don't want to blast the group with something irrelevant. But those are the tough ones. So you have to like, for a while. I think it just seems like I have to just continue to do, the fractal stuff or buy more gear like Chris does. But buy gear and start putting it up. That's because that Fender. I have a Fender video, a Strat video, and I didn't. That one gets a lot of hits because people search for Fender Players Series, Fender.
They do.
Yeah, so I just need to start just grabbing guitars here and there, and my
well,
kit.
You've probably got a dozen things in that room right now that have not been demoed by you at least.
Yeah.
That you could do a 5-minute check this out.
Yeah.
Video
for sure.
In between, and just do it. Do it as an exercise and put it up.
Yeah.
Even if it diffuses the fractal focus a little bit, doesn't matter because it makes you more diverse.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's most of the time I'll do some sort of like I'm passionate about like teaching and I taught guitar for a long time and teaching tutorials of just like tech stuff, and but those are hard. I did a video on I forgot what it was, but it took me like. Yeah, no, it was reamping through Logic or something like that. I mean, it took like a long time to edit it, and it's like there's just
that's a tough one too.
It's
because
a tough
of the audio
one,
streams and screen capture software and
I know, and then you just don't get people just they like you said the attention span is already low, but just getting them to go, I want to watch that, but like you said, I'll go back and I'll go. Yeah, that really wasn't that interesting, So you learn a lot when you're doing your channel for sure. You can't just pop on there and just do whatever you want, Do we have Chris? Do we have anything in the chat room that you've seen go by? That any questions?
I've been typing to people, but no specific questions. I have a couple questions.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I'll
mostly
stop.
Guitar related because he's had so many. You have really interesting guitars on your channel. That's something that I always think is cool because it's not just something I saw at Guitar Center or whatever. I usually have to Google the guitars you have on there because I'm like I don't know, I've never heard of that. So
I do have a taste for the outside. Where
do you find those? Are those brands that reach out to you? Is that stuff you were interested in and you kind of pursued? Because I've never heard of half the stuff you get in, and they're always really cool.
Can you give me a couple of an example or?
You had there was one that was like looked like just a masterwork kind of vintage Strat, and I believe it was Russian.
Right. Yeah.
And what else? There was another brand that I actually. But anyways,
I'll explain about that one. I was doing some work for Kirk Hammett, and David Caron when they put out their DKDH pedals. Gosh, how do you say it?
Oh, okay.
And I still have a pretty good relationship with David. Hi, David, who's Kirk's business partner in the pedal business. And so just by way, I was following his Instagram account, and he said, check this out. And I did, and I delved deeper into this Russian guy's relic work, and it's really just one guy working at Andrew Shelgov, his name is, who's master builder, who's working out of a shed in Moscow, building vintage 60s styles Fender replicas.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, this is so cool. And there wasn't a lot of resource up there, but enough to take a punt on it, for want of a better word. So I sent him an email. I said, Andrew, I can probably help you if you want. Let's do a contra deal. Build me an early 60s late classic blues Stratocaster, and I will expose you to the world. And I'm happy to pay or whatever, but we worked out something. He built the guitar. It arrived 6 weeks later in bits, so it wouldn't have to be shipped in a long box or whatever you call it. So I'm capable enough to put them together myself, which is what I did, and it was amazing, and it's still amazing. I love it.
That guitar stood out. It sounded so good in that demo that I couldn't believe it. I made a mental note and went, check that out later because that's a cool guitar. Really
and
special.
Consequently, he got orders for tons of them. So it worked well for him, and I got a great Strat, which I treasure. So that's how it works sometimes. Harmony guitars are about to be launched in the US. I think they were launched officially yesterday. The new really reinvented Harmony brand, which has been and Tisco, which has been appropriated or bought and is now owned by a Singapore-based company called BandLab, who is owned by a media mogul's billionaire's son, and he's right into rock and roll. I think he owns Rolling Stone magazine as well. So he's employed an office building full of people to re-embrace this brand and reinvent it and rebuild it and do it proper justice because he believes in this stuff. And I've got to tell you, those Tisco pedals, they are good. So I expect that the new Harmony guitars will be great as well. And their brand manager contacted me just because they like the way I do things. Yeah, so I'm expecting a couple of those to roll in next week. I'm looking forward to that a lot. That's how some of the more obscure stuff happens.
Yeah. And you have a couple demos where you're the only person who has a video of that guitar. Like I came across a guitar that I was curious about and looked up if anybody had a video of it. And you had a 7-string, I think it was wild looking if I remember. It was like red and it was a pretty small brand. I can't come up with a name at the moment, but
I'll show you.
It's probably got it.
It's like show and tell.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. What brand is that?
This is fast guitars, however you pronounce it, and it's built by a fella called Kevin Fast, who's a Canadian. On the east coast of Canada, if I'm not mistaken, in the very cold bit above New York. It is an incredibly well built thing. I wanted it in an habanero color, like a chili color, which it's a bit more orange, I think. Mm-hmm. But and I just saw his stuff. I can't remember how I found it. I was obsessed with 8 and 7 strings for a little while early last year. Just because I like to do things that challenge my own skill set. When I'm listening to something or trying something, it's always to try and further myself musically and creatively rather than get stuck and stayed. So that's why I've got all of this obscure stuff. That's another reason, because I like to always try to think outside the square just a little bit. Yeah. So I took a punt and I asked him to build me this 7-string, and it's amazing. It's beautiful. I'd never had a fan fret before. It's got stainless steel frets. They were a relatively new thing to me as well. Ebony board. It's light as a feather. And it's good fun. It's not a blues guitar.
Somebody wanted to know...
but since that's metal, I can play... It's become a blues guitar.
Yeah.
Somebody wanted to know about artist. One of these guys wants to know about artist guitars. said ask you about Artist Guitars. I don't know if that's the brand or that's the.
Yeah, it is a brand, and they have an office in California as well. It's a brand that has been invented, I think, by a couple of Australian guys who I've become friendly with over here, and they employ 3 or 4 of the better Chinese factories and produce mostly hybrid kind of things like the Grunge Master, which was part Jag, part Jazzmaster, part P90 guitar for usually less than $300 with a case, and they churn them out in limited editions. There might be 50 or 100 available at any one time, and then they move on to something else. But they've got a dozen different models in their catalogue which stay there all the time, although they're always on back order because they sell out usually within a day or two. So when they release something new, they'll send it down to me. I'll demo it, and then I'll sell it to someone who needs an inexpensive guitar the next day because I don't need guitars. I've got 50 of them here. I'm trying to sell them now.
Wow. Chris will buy some.
I don't need any more either, man.
Yeah, you got that 59. So what is your touring kind of like? Have you been using the Axe-Fx stuff, or are you using traditional amps?
Yep. Well, I began using Marshall in the late 70s, 80s, and through to the 90s, and I still have an agreement and an affiliation with Marshall. I love them, but I've got a bunch of other stuff here as well, Laney and Achilles. I'm just looking around the room, MI Audio, but mainly Marshall. And 6 years ago, because I've always liked to use technology as well, this is part of my outside the square thinking tendencies so the Digitech 20-watt-01, remember that? Which was one of the first 2-unit rack units, which was, right. I just had to get one because it had all of this possibility and stuff that you could, play with and exploit. It died a terrible death 4 or 5 years later. And I was kind of put off the rack thing for a while. But then Fractal Audio appeared maybe 10 years ago, but it was only, and I put an order in for an Axe-Fx 2. I had to wait 1.5 years to get one here in Australia. But when I did, it was so revolutionary, and revolutionary as well, that it became fairly quickly the most valuable tool in this room and then on stage, apart from my hands. And I still would say that because the Axe-Fx 3 is something that I use in all sorts of different applications, whether it be to demo an overdrive pedal or to create music or to write presets for every single day. And so I'm totally sworn to it. And I've been using them on stage, no apps at all for the last 6 years.
Wow.
And I can't. It depends on no power amp.
All in-ears, or you just go by the monitors, house monitors?
Normally it's a couple of Nexos, which are anything up to a couple of 1,000 watts each, in stereo at me.
Nice.
Coming right back at me in my face, Eddie's and loud.
Yeah, wow. I bet.
But glorious. And so our other guitar player, second guitar player, my great friend Josh Owen, uses a similar rig on the other side of the stage. And we're playing to 10,000 people every weekend usually when we're on the roads. So it's got to be on. And it's great. I'll never look back because I can rely on it. I know what I'm going to get. And previously I could hire a couple of AC30s, but I'd never know whether the speakers were shot or the tubes were shot, how the monitor guys mic them up, or if someone's tripped over the mic, it's not mic'd up at all. That sort of stuff.
Wow.
No, there's no lugging. I'm not going back there. I'm too old, and I've done all of that. And the Fractal solution for me is the solution.
Are you going to do the FM3 when it comes out, or are you going to just stick with the rack?
I will probably. At the moment, I'm using an AX8, which has been fabulous.
Yep, for
sure. I only have one Axe-Fx 3 because they're expensive. I'd like to, but I can't afford one at the moment. So it sits here. It is the permanent and cornerstone of everything that I do in this room, as far as demos and any content creation goes. So it's fine there. The AX8 is good. It's portable. I've got it in a road case, like a briefcase. Can take it wherever I like. When the FM3 appears, I will definitely be wanting to get one, and I'll probably pair it with the FC6, which is the modular foot pedal solution for it, which will give me 9 buttons. That's tons because they all have secondary functions and some have triple functions.
Yeah.
And the power, CPU power that they've hinted at will be more than enough, probably 3 times as more as the AX8, which is already ample.
Yeah.
So yes, I will be using.
I kind of regret. I kind of regret my FC12 purchase. I had the 6, and then I sold it, and I got my invitation for the FC12, and I'm like, it's big. I don't need that many buttons. It's nice, but the FC6 was be awesome for a little. The footprint, to grab would be great. So.
Well, that's true. I haven't tried the FC12 yet. I hope to, but there's no stock in Australia. There's always a stock situation, unfortunately, with Freckle in this country at least, which is, I guess, a testament to the demand of the product, but it can also be a pain in the ass for the guy who's selling it, for the people who want to buy it.
Yeah,
so it's a constant thing which needs to be addressed.
I had to wait forever for my XFX2. I got on the waiting list on a pre-order thing, and finally my number came up, and of course it always shows up when you're broke, and I wanted it so bad. I think I just dumped like everything I had and I bought it, and it was worth it because I immediately thought, oh, I'll just sell every amp I own because I don't need them anymore, and I did, and that was it. So it paid for itself the first day it arrived. Basically, I played it for an hour and went, oh, that was effectively free. I think I had a Mark IV head at the time, and like a 4x12, and I just let those go.
And those heartstrings that were torn as the amp went out to its new owner, are they repaired? Is that all cool now?
It's fine with me.
and I'm sure you guys have seen it, but I just saw. When I sell guitars, generally I never see them again. But I sold one locally a couple of years ago. I cut my Custom 24, and just last night I saw it pop up again. And I know you've talked about that on your channel, Chris. And it was, I really was kind of like, that's my guitar, But he had done like, it was like a one-off like artist kind of pack. I mean, I don't think it was an artist, but it had a maple, unfinished flame maple neck. Ebony fingerboard, and it was like a charcoal burst or whatever. And but he took the backs off, like the plates, and bought like maple plates. And so he did all this stuff to it. I was like, you modified that beautiful guitar. It was fine how it was, but then there was dings on it that weren't there when I gave it to him. And I was just, and then he wants $200 more than he bought it. So maybe you'll get it. But, I was like, I kind of.
Let it go. Let it go, Greg. Let it go.
I know. I gotta let it go. I mean, I'm fine because the next. I realized that guitar was the nail in the coffin for me for tiny necks, and of course my Sir has a very comfortable neck, but it's maybe just a tad too thin for me. But that PRS was that wide thin, and I don't think I can do those anymore. So, but I can't do the baseball bat either. So. But
yeah, don't buy back the same guitars. I've been tempted when I see them. I don't think that's who knows. You sold it for a reason, unless you were forced to sell it. That's different. Yeah. But if you sold it because you're like, I'm sick of this thing.
I sold it for this e-drum. The e-drum kit behind me is what I sold it for. But at the same time, I was. I wanted that. I wanted a better Les Paul that wasn't so heavy. An 11-pound Les Paul I was telling you about was crazy heavy for me.
Whoa.
Yeah, I was dumb when I bought it on Reverb. I was like, 11 pounds? What does that mean? That means it's freaking heavy.
Heavy.
Yeah, got it in.
That means L4 and L5.
Yeah, exactly, the L5. But I played it out for a couple of years. That was my main guitar, but it was heavy. Anything else do we have? I don't think we have. We're coming up on an hour here. Chris, obviously.
I'm good if you want to keep going.
Yeah, I mean, there's, I think there's not too many people in the chat, but,
I have a couple questions that are mostly Axe Effects related, because I am the world's least competent Axe Effects user. I use AC20, Friedman BE, and maybe a couple clean ones, and that's it. And I have an Axe Effects 2 regular, not XL or anything, is there what kind of benefit would somebody like me see from getting an XFX3 or something like that? Am I because the only reason that I would like to upgrade is I can't get a lot of the patches that you make and my friends make and that sort of thing. So that's kind of a bummer.
That's going to be the primary difference. I think the actual benefit for you, if you're using a fairly fundamental set of amps, which by the sounds of things you are, that the benefit will be marginal. But if you're attracted to some of the wacky presets that people like me are churning out, you can do it. Can you use Fractal to convert those backwards? I'm not sure. Man.
I have tried. There are tools for it. They don't seem to work. Some of them
they'll come up blank, empty, like you can't hear. There'll be stuff missing from it. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. It just doesn't seem to work, even though there is a tool, and you can go up. Yeah. You can convert from 2 to XL or whatever, but downgrading to mine doesn't seem to work, and I haven't had any luck with it. But one of the most disappointing examples is Brett. You had a video doing like this. It's like this Vangelis like Blade Runner thing. And I loved it. And I was like, oh, the patch is on there. So I got super excited, downloaded that patch, and fired it up. And it just said, like, nope, can't move it over. And I was like, oh, so disappointed. It was such a cool tone. It was this really spacey, like, it was a Blade Runner thing for sure. I loved it. But, I guess the patches that's the tricky part.
That's going to be the main benefit, I think, of having the biggest and the best, is to be able to use do whatever you want.
I mean, I think I never had the rack XFX, so I came from the X8, and was a touring guy that came up on the Helix channel and Facebook, and I didn't know it. He just said, anybody want to trade this for a Helix? And I was like, one of those caught me on a good day. I was like, sure, I'll do it. And there was a guy who had been using it on tour, and so I took all his presets off. But that was my first. But it was really hard for me to go to the X8 from the Helix interface. I mean, it was just But then again, when I went live, I was like, well, what do I need? I just need my main controls here: the bass, treble, middle. That was convenient. So, but you definitely had to.
So he traded his Fractal unit for your Helix, or the other way around?
No, he already had a Helix that he was using out in the road, and he wanted another Helix for home. So he had a rig. He had a rig in the UK that was a Helix rig, and he was trying to make the switch to the X8. But I mean, and that's the thing, there's all the wars around, and so it's a personal preference, but I know definitely plugging into the Fractal stuff, it was like basically all knobs on noon, it's an okay tone. You plug in, you bring up my favorite is the Friedman amps. Generally those, when I plug them in, I just have to do a little bit of tweaking, and the cabinet makes the bigger difference anyway, so I plug a cabinet in there, but yeah, no, he wanted to trade, and I was kind of like, did I make the right choice? But hindsight, absolutely, because it really started my channel. So if it wasn't for that one little trade, I would have never started my channel probably. Well, when I did.
Well, that's worth the price of admission alone.
Yeah,
and they sound great forever. Yeah.
Yeah. But I sold that.
Such a cool tool.
And I when the FM3 got announced, I got right on the list, and I said, my kid, he's 14 years old, and that when you're starting out, they excel so fast when you're young. They can like go a matter of a year or two, they can just blow up. So he's been using the X8 with me, playing with this gig that I do once a month.
Right.
But I sold the X8 for like $1,200 or something. So after reverb fees, I got enough to pay for the FM3, but of course it's sitting there. Now somebody, of course, they're always asking, when is it going to be available? Or they get really impatient on the Facebook group. I think I'm giving up on you guys or whatever. And Cliff actually responded today. He said very soon. He's just, putting out some.
Did he?
Yeah, he actually, which is, I never see his response. He said, it said soon, just dealing with some firmware issues, just tweaking some firmware stuff. So I don't know what soon in his. I don't know him well enough to know what that means when he says soon. But
well, that's a good sign. So because he wouldn't say that unless he meant it. Cliff is fairly cagey about stuff like that. So that's good.
Yeah. So I
So Chris, that's what I think you should probably go for is the FM3 when it's released, if you want to upgrade.
And that's the kind of foot pedal, the 3-switch one. It's basically like a trimmed down Axe FX foot pedal, right?
Yes. Yeah, and if you couple it with the FC6, or if you want to go Mammoth the FC12, you've got everything you need basically at your feet, and
it'll have most of the amps at least. I mean, I don't need 400.
From what I can gather, it will have all of the amps and all of the effects, but the CPU power will be slightly less because of its architecture. So you won't be able to have things like at the moment in the Axe FX3, you can have 2 amp blocks, and each of those amp blocks can accommodate 4 amps. So effectively, there can be 8 different amplifiers per preset, which is pretty wacky. But I explored that when I'm writing presets for the Dumble thing that I put up the other day, or Marshalls or whatever, just because you can. But on stage, I'm not sure how many people would actually use that kind of volume of stuff. I think the FM3 being able to give you 4 amps within any one preset is probably going to be enough.
That's what I say. That's what I always tell people. I was just like, they were really they are very bitter about the decision to make it smaller. And I was like, well, okay, you can add custom switches. You can add any external switch to it now. You can add the FC6. It's really not that much more. Now I
think it's a great idea.
I think
it sounds like it's made for me.
You can build your own.
Well, and that's what I was saying. You can, a lot of people are like, hey, I'm going to the Helix because I want an expression pedal. I'm like, I've seen the complaints of the expression pedal. So I'd rather have one that I can pick my own expression pedal. And if that breaks, then I just replace it. I mean, I don't want this, like I said, I love the Helix, but I just, I had that and it was squeaky some days and then some days it didn't work. But I think they made the right decision, because if you want to go out on the road and you want to go do a fly date, stick it in your backpack just with the 3. And if you want something bigger on a board, then put it on the board maybe that time and go to a so I think it.
Yeah, and if you want bigger still, buy the XFX3. It's still only half the price of a Friedman head.
Right.
Every Friedman head is in there, and from what I can gather, he's friends with Cliff, so they've all been signed off. Although I don't think that's to the same extent that Kemper does, because Kemper demands that the brands affiliate themselves with the Kemper. From what I'm told, I've never even tried a Kemper.
So what is that relation? You said so. For Dave Friedman is there. I mean, I've heard some things on him. Like one time, somebody asked him about how he felt about modeling, and he said something to the effect of, "Well, it's kind of like stealing." But so what's that relationship that you know of between?
Well, the only relationship that I can really quote is Alan Phillips, and Alan is the guy behind Carol Ann amplifiers, and I'm a big fan of Carol Ann amplifiers. You wouldn't see one in Australia, not many anyway. But Alan is so besotted with the idea, and I think it's fairly forward-thinking, that he is happy to take his models, the Tucana and the Triptych and other things that he's built, to Cliff to be modelled, because the models are so accurate, so spot on, that they act as a kind of static advertisement within the framework of the Axe FX3 for people who would never be able to try those amps.
Yeah. Or have never heard of them. They'll be flipping through and say, "What's that?" Oh, I like
that's
this.
Right. And that is an amazing sound. And if that's accurate, I'm going to get the real thing, because I've got 5K sitting in my hidden account. So I'm going to order one from Alan, and from what I can gather, that's what they're doing. So that has a very beneficial effect. And because there are 260 amps currently in the current firmware, something like that, isn't it, Greg?
Yeah. It's crazy.
I live in a major city. This is a big city, but I might be only able to try tangibly 10 of those amps. But in the Axe FX, I can try them all and and be fairly confident that is what they're going to sound like if I decide to buy the real thing.
Yeah, I think some people miss that, and that was, I was going to actually bring that exact point up earlier. Was I have learned I'm a traditional guy. I bought a Bogner Ecstasy years ago, 2001, I think it was, and that's all I used up until the Helix. So I didn't have any boost pedals, didn't have anything. I just straight in, a couple in the effects loop. So I got really used to that. So I never, honestly, I was too poor when I was a kid, so I didn't have a lot of pedal. I didn't have any pedals really. So understanding what a tube's, I'm going to admit it. Sorry. I played since I was 12. I'm 46, right? But I didn't know a tube screamer was supposed to go in front, right, of a Marshall. I would plug in the tube screamer and go, this sounds like crap, because I was running it clean, right? I didn't realize that people were using it in the way they were using it, because I never had a Marshall either, But my point being is I do play those amps. I've played Friedman amps. I love traditional amps. So when I play it, I go, I think I want that amp. I want that. Not that I want that backbreaker of an amp, but I still have that love for that. In the pedals, I've learned so much about how pedals interact with the amps and what you can do, and it's made me go out there and build a pedal board. It's made me, so the people that are not going to that are going to go away from amps, probably we're going to do that anyway. And the people that love amps and all that technology are going to use it as a supplemental tool and for a job that they need. Like if it's, hey, it just makes sense on this gig, so I'm going to use it. But if it makes sense and I want to go play out with my amp, or just have them in a room full of stuff because I love to turn knobs, they're going to buy that stuff for sure. I think. I guess.
Oh, definitely. And and to the earlier point is, I think the Friedman patches are official or signed off on, because it says Friedman. It's one of the only patches on AxeFX that says Friedman on it, and I would assume they would take issue with that unless it had been signed off. But same deal with me. The Morgan patch, the AC20 Deluxe or whatever it's called on there, that's literally how I found out about Morgan. Is I went, this sounds great. I love this patch, and then I went to that PDF that kind of tells you which patch is similar to what amp. And it was like Oregon AC20, and I was like,
okay, so it becomes an educational tool.
Josh Smith was my Morgan introduction. Ever listened to him?
Yeah. That guy's a monster.
He grew up playing a couple hours from me when he was a kid.
Josh, how do I know that name? He had a pedal. He had a tremolo pedal or something, didn't he?
I think. What is it? Who is the guy that does?
Rocket pedals.
He does that, and then Love pedals. He does some stuff with that too, I think.
I love pedals.
Yeah, so
he's got a signature Morgan too now.
Yeah, and he made me buy my Telecaster, and I can't play anything like him. So I was like, I'm going to be a Tele guy like Josh Smith. And I never know. But apparently, he was playing. He's Fort Lauderdale. He's from around here, and he was playing a lot of clubs down here. And I think when I was in the mid '90s, my friend was trying to get me to go see him, and I just didn't think about who he was. But he's a monster player for sure. But I think that's funny because I didn't really think about the naming convention in the patches. That maybe that's why. But I think it's just like everything. There's a lot of things that force manufacturers to think outside the box, and everything might have a period of, if you can hang in there long enough as a manufacturer, and weather that storm, and then start to innovate, just like the PT15, the Sur amp coming out with a lot of the guys are putting direct, DIs on the back or just making the little small ones, so it still gives you that feel, but you can have it in the studio. And Friedman, of course, with their JJ Junior, and which I want that. Yes. What is that?
This is the Super Lead Plexi in a 20-watt configuration, and it's amazing.
Really? Oh wow.
1959 Super Lead Plexi, just in a smaller head, so that's great. It's still kick-ass loud in here, but it's a lot more manageable.
Because you can't crank that other stuff up. You're never going to get to do that. So, but I had an the aux amp box or whatever.
Aux box or whatever.
Yeah, I had that briefly. It was weird. I didn't realize I plugged my Bogner into it, and I was like, oh, I can just crank it. And I cranked it, and I think I figured out it was the transformer. It was just buzzing. Every time I was playing, it was like rattling in there. So I was like, I think I messaged Bogner or something, and they were like, it's probably just your transformer working. Because, you never hear, you never hear your guitar. It's so loud, you're not listening to your head, so you don't know what's going on in there. But when it's on a load and you have it, through small speakers. So, but I didn't have it for too long. I think I was trying to get the XFX3, so I had to part with that. But it's pretty cool box.
Yeah, I've got the Boss one here, the new one.
I love that. That demo you did was great.
Yeah,
it's a very clever machine.
Yeah,
I was really looking at those when those videos started to roll out. I started to go, well, I do only use a couple amps on XFX. Maybe I should get that thing, but I figured just keep it simple, stick with the thing I know. But I would like at least maybe one amp and the Boss load box, because it looks like simple enough. It's not like a hassle. I just want to avoid something that's like a ordeal to.
No, it's not an ordeal. You stick the speaker feed from your amp head into it, and then take some lines out, either USB or analog lines, into your sound card, and you're done. And it's got DSP on board as well. If you want to stick some delay and reverb on it, it's very clever. It's good.
That's good.
Awesome. It's built like a tank. It's heavy.
Well, we're at an hour and almost 15 minutes. I'm trying to be cognizant of your time, and so if you want to, we can wind down and close it out. Obviously, I mean, I love talking for however long you want to, but like I said, I get it. So, and I'm the same way. We're not a tone talk. We don't want to talk for 4 hours. So,
tone talk, shots fired.
No. I love those guys. They'll never watch my stuff, but I love those guys. But yeah, I mean, it is Dave Friedman and all those guys.
Oh, those guys. Yeah.
Yes.
That goes for hours, doesn't it?
I mean, they do have. Here's why, though.
It's a great show, but it's.
But you know why? They started out with Scotch.
Well,
they have Scotch. So, I mean,
Scotch and Valium and marijuana, that'll do it, won't it?
Yeah, I mean, I love bourbon, so I could do that as well, but I won't. So I don't drink that much. But yes, that would get me talking for probably hours.
Well, I'm drinking black coffee, so I'm in a hurry.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, anything, any last words, Chris? Any last questions? Anything you want to close it out with? Shoot.
I'll leave it to Brett, because I think we covered it. It was really good meeting you and chatting with you. Really enjoyed it.
Well, you asked me about one of the great things that YouTube has brought me, and I have to say that it's things like this, to be able to talk to you guys from the other side of the world, and that I've actually been given the opportunity to do so, and that you would want to. So I'm very flattered and honoured. And whoever's watching, you've got to subscribe to Greg's channel, because he needs that AdSense. And
yeah, $70.
$70.
$70 is not enough, man.
Yeah, I know.
And thank you very much for having me, and it's been wonderful. I hope we can do it again sometime.
Great. All right, guys. Awesome. Well, thanks again, Chris. Talk to you later. Brett, talk to you later. Everybody else, thanks for hanging out with us, and have a good week.
Sayonara.
All right.
Yeah.